All right, let's hear from Jaden first. I'm just going to go down the order that I see on my screen.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jaden. My pronouns are he, him, and I am an accounting major, first year student at DePaul University.
Welcome, Jaden. Leah, how about you?
Sure. Hi guys, my name is Leah. My pronouns are she, her. I am majoring in bioengineering at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign.
My alma mater. All right, Valentina.
Hi, everybody. My name is Valentina. I use she, her pronouns, and I go to Emory University. If you haven't heard of it, it's a school in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, and I'm majoring in neuroscience and behavioral biology.
Awesome. And you all went to D219 schools, right?
Yes,
Did
Niles
everybody go to
West.
Niles West?
Mhm.
Yes.
Same
Yes.
D219
All
school.
right. Yeah, West represent, very strong. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
So, can you tell us a little bit about why you picked the schools that you chose?
Yeah, I can start. I picked DePaul for a couple different reasons. First was location. I wanted to pick a college that was close to home so I can visit a lot. And I also just like the idea of going to college in the city. I think it has a lot of different opportunities, especially for my major in business, for employment, internships, things like that. And also it came out with financial aid. DePaul gave me a really good financial aid package to make college more affordable.
I can go next then. Basically, I was stuck between a couple different schools, but what made me end up with U of I was I could see that they invested in me a lot more than the other school options did. So they said, oh, if you come here, we'll admit you into this special program. We would they also they gave me a scholarship, and so that was also compelling. And that just made me feel, even though the university is like if you don't already know, U of I is pretty big campus and a lot of students, but the they made sure that they would invest in you as an individual student, which I seem to feel even more than at like smaller universities that I was considering. So in the end, it was really that investment in me as an individual that made me come to U of I.
Yeah, and I guess I can go next. For me, I chose Emory because of its location, like Jaden, but it's in Atlanta, Georgia, which is really far. And I wanted to go somewhere new and try new things. And I also really wanted to be in the city, somewhere warm. And Atlanta just kind of ticked all my boxes. And I'm also on the pre-med track, and I know Emory had, like, I knew when I was applying that Emory had one of the best programs for pre-meds, and that they really catered to their pre-med population, which I was really looking forward to that. Um, so yeah, that's why I picked it. I think for me, I just picked it like right off the bat, and I saw it and I was like, yes, that's the one.
Awesome. So now we're wondering what's something that surprised you about the school you picked? And if there isn't anything in that category, something that surprised you about your college experience in general.
Um, Thinking about something that surprised me about college in general is just the amount of flexibility you have with your classes. I think going from high school where pick 8 classes for the year and you're there Monday through Friday for most of the day, like college is a lot different in that classes, you meet less, you have less classes, and you have a lot more flexibility when it comes to what days you go to class, what hours, what campus you go to. And yeah, it kind of just falls on to having more responsibility to like make a good schedule and manage your time well, I think.
For sure, yeah. For me, so U of I didn't know that this was really a highlight of it before coming, but it really is an international institution. And it felt a little odd because I thought, oh, it's just a state school, so there's going to be plenty of people from where I'm from here. And there are, but there's also a very large and diverse international population, as well as people just from all over the world, all over the country. So it was really eye-opening to see that, I think that the community that we live in Skokie here is fairly diverse, which we're all fortunate for. But like coming here was like, it was even more than that. There was so many different people, and I was so pleasantly surprised that there are so many different ways of thinking about different problems, which is one of the things that I really liked unintendedly about this university. There's a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different ways that you can enrich yourself with the experiences that other people have, and you can share your own experiences with them as well. So just a really diverse community, I think, surprised me, but pleasantly.
Yeah, mine was actually the same as yours, Leah. I was really, really surprised about the international population at my school. I think it's about 20% international students, which just blows my mind. And it's really, really cool because I've had some very deep and thought-provoking conversations when it comes to race and what does that actually mean for who they are, like both in America and back home for them. So that was a very interesting thing that I didn't expect.
I love these answers. Okay, so we had some conversation before this started about what this question means. So the question is, what did you do to prepare for college? And it could be like what you did in high school or what you did like after high school, right before going to college.
I'd say for before college on the academic side, I met with my assigned advisor to schedule my classes for the first quarter. And I also met with upperclassmen to talk to them about what I could expect. I think the good thing about District 219 is for my college, DePaul, a lot of Niles West, Niles North alumni go there. So I kind of knew some upperclassmen going in that I could talk to and see like, oh, what classes should I be taking? What club should I be joining? Things like that. So that kind of prepared me for what to expect. And on the social side, I started meeting with a lot of other freshmen, incoming freshmen on social media. Like one thing colleges do when you're accepted is that you'll get invited to a Facebook page where you can post about yourself, introduce yourself, and kind of just interact with other incoming freshmen that are coming from in-state, out-of-state, international. It's just a whole lot of different people coming in.
For me, so this I guess is a little bit more about what you can do at the moment. And this you can kind of do no matter where you are in life. And my big tip is that taking hard classes or just like pushing yourself in general, whether it's with like taking other like extracurriculars, if you're in a sport, if you play an instrument. I'm not saying that you should go overboard, but really challenging yourself is helpful not only to, because in college, your classes are going to be harder, one, because the content is harder, but two, because you have to manage all of that learning and staying on top of things. You have to manage that by yourself. So having the experience of challenging yourself previously and knowing not only how far you can go, but how far you cannot go, because you don't want to burn out in college either. It's really important to have that awareness of yourself. And so I think that pushing yourself early on as preparation before actually getting to college, that is something that can really help you prepare. So no matter where you are in life, don't be afraid to push your limits a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose I did things similar to both Leah and Jaden in terms of preparation. I want to echo Jaden's point about meeting incoming freshmen. I think it's really important. And I actually met a lot of people that I continued to stay friends with once we got to campus. And there are also Instagram pages. You can just type in like class of whatever year you are that you'll graduate college, and then the school's name, and then you can find Instagram pages where everyone's like meeting each other and posting. And it's just a really nice vibe. And then I guess I'll speak as to what I did to prepare for a school that's so far away. So I guess one of the first things I did was try to find a roommate. And I use the Instagram page that I mentioned, like our class page. And I know the person running it had like a sort of quiz, a matching quiz. So I took that and I got matched with someone. And eventually I found someone that I really clicked with. And then from there, we just like had Zoom calls, we talked to each other, got to know each other. And it was really cool because then we became really good friends. She's probably one of my closest friends here at Emory, so it's really nice. And then in terms of moving, we drove down here. I know some people that flew, but it's a bit hard to move all your stuff through airplane. So if you are going somewhere far away, I would say most people drive. So you can just keep that in mind. And the schools do have accommodations for that because I mean most schools do, just because they know that people are going to be coming from all across the nation, even internationally. Um, yeah.
Really good tips. So something popped into my mind as a follow-up, just because I know you all three went to the same school in the same district, obviously. And I'm wondering about whether any of you had much involvement with, I think Jaden mentioned this, but the like kind of college and career office at school. Sometimes I talk to teens who don't really know about it, and I know from my experience in high school, some people were there every day during a free period, and some people had no idea that it existed. So did you utilize that resource in high school? Did you feel that it helped prepare you, or not really?
Not sure about Leah and Valentina, but I didn't go to them very often. Like the only time I see them is from the occasional visit from our college counselor, Mr. Jin. He would come into our English class and like present about college options and that kind of thing. What do you guys remember? I don't.
For me, I know that I definitely got more involved with it once I was actually in the admissions like process. So once I like actually started writing essays, and once I was having to like fill out all these forms about like, oh, you need to have this information for like your financial aid, like all of that. That's when they definitely became more of a resource, especially with the essays. I really appreciated having a fresh set of eyes because, when you're writing about yourself, it sounds a little counterintuitive, but you can get too much into your own head when you're writing about yourself. So sometimes it's nice to have just someone like look from a different perspective and kind of tell you the way it is. But yeah, in terms of how frequently I used it, I did not really use it much until the actual like admissions process like began.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I visited it physically, but I know Mr. Jin gave us resources to search up universities and like ways we can use filters to find out which universities fit our criteria and different career paths that we can take moving forward. And I found that to be really helpful. So even if you don't feel comfortable like going there in person, communicating, because I don't know. I'm an introvert, so I know it's a little scary. They still send out really helpful resources that you should definitely take advantage of.
Also, I think almost all the senior year English classes take time out of the beginning of the year to look over students' application letters and things like that. I remember mine did. It's just, really useful to have your teacher and your peers look over your essays for you.
That's great that they do that. I know my English class did that as well senior year. It's really helpful to get extra eyes on a paper like that, because Leah's totally right. Like you can really get in your own head a little bit, and it's just an intimidating process. But I just want to say something that I know that the at West and at North in the college and career centers, both of them have at times worked with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, which is an organization that we also host at the library from time to time, ISAC, and they do really great presentations around finding scholarships, navigating and completing FAFSA. So for folks that are, approaching the college admissions process, stay tuned and see what I would recommend seeing what your school has going on, but like Valentina mentioned, it's not always going to be the in-person stuff. Sometimes there are great resources that you'll have access to through that. Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Let's talk about classes, because I know folks have stuff to say about this. Talk about a class that you loved or a class that you hated, and then talk about like how you picked it and how you can pick good classes.
Leah, did you want to take this one first?
Sure, yeah. So I'm excited for this question because this semester I'm taking this class called Mythology of Greece and Rome. It's Classical Civilizations 115. This one, so the way that I chose it, um, so this is a general education requirement for me. So within within each, okay, I'm not going to explain the whole thing because it takes a while to explain, but I can choose, I have some flexibility of which gen eds I'd like to take. So I picked this one because I was already familiar with Greek and Roman mythology, and I thought it would be more fun to explore it in like at a college level. What I didn't expect was my TA. Her name is Amy. She made the class so much fun. She brought so much enthusiasm, so much, she clearly demonstrated how passionate she was about what she was studying. And, given that it is a gen ed, it's a little difficult to sometimes get your students to get excited about it, considering that most of them are probably just taking it for the requirement. But she never let that stop her. And she really just, she came in all the time. Like, she told us about this one comic that she was reading about that's like an adaptation of one of her favorite myths. And she brought like video clips for us to watch in class. She really went above and beyond. So the point that I want to make about this is that your professors and TAs, while they don't like, I wouldn't say that they make or break your classes, they can definitely have a very heavy influence in the positive or negative direction. So when you are choosing your classes or like you're kind of looking into what you're going to be taking, I would, if you have the time and the flexibility to check out, who is teaching, who is TAing those classes, I would look into that. I don't know about you two, Jaden and Valentina, if you guys use Rate My Professor.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But it's a helpful resource because, like I said, they can really augment your experience in that class. So yeah, definitely, if you have that flexibility within your schedule, go ahead and find those TAs and those professors. There are some gems out there, and they can really make your experience in college so much better.
Definitely. To build off of using Rate My Professor, I think it's a really important tool to use when you're picking classes, because I know a lot of people who, if they can find a really good professor, it doesn't matter what class it is. It could be underwater basket weaving, and they'll take it just because of how good the professor is. Because if you have a good professor, they can make any subject really great to learn. One class I really liked taking was last quarter. I took Classic Hollywood Film Conventions, which is this class on like the basics of screenwriting and directing. And honestly, it was an easy class. It was asynchronous. I had to watch a movie a week and write a 500-word paper on it. I took it because it was asynchronous and I was taking two difficult econ and math classes. So I wanted one easier one. So just looking in there and kind of finding a good balance of challenging classes, but also fun and easier classes is important. And the way I look for classes to pick is I pull up my degree progress report, which is just this big report of all the classes you need to take throughout your 4 years. It'll show your gen eds, your major requirements, your specific school requirements. And you can kind of just go through them and see, okay, maybe I want to take an arts class this quarter, one business class, one philosophy class. And it's just kind of finding that right balance of what subjects do you want to be learning at that time.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next. So my favorite class was one I took last semester, and it was called Interpreting Unseen Behaviors, and it was an animal tracking class. So what we did, yes, we went into the woods and we would track animals. So we had, I think I have it with me. Yes, we had this book. Can you see it? Let me turn off my filter for a second so you can see that. But we got this book of all types of animal tracks, and it's actually such a cool book. And it like tells you what all the animal tracks look like, and then it also comes with a ruler in the back so you can measure them, because different tracks, depending on their size, they could mean different animals are there. And what's really cool about Emory is that there are a lot of forests nearby, like 5-minute walk from campus. So we would go into the forests and we would look for deer, possums, squirrels, like anything that you can think of. We saw coyotes. It was really cool. Yeah, and we would go on like mini field trips during class, and I just had a really great time. But I want to echo what Jaden and Leah were saying. The reason I liked the class wasn't just because it was super cool, but our professor was like the most gentle, nicest human being I have ever met. And he just really elevated my class experience. So please rate my professor. Like, it's so helpful. It will tell you what other students thought of the professors, and you can figure out, like Leah said, who's the gem. Yeah.
I would also say though, like, use rate my professor, and like with some of the negative reviews, take it with a grain of salt, because sometimes personalities between professor and student doesn't always match up, and sometimes you just have a professor you don't vibe with, and that can kind of affect your opinion on it. But that doesn't mean that other students don't like that professor. So don't like read too much into everything that's said on there.
That's a good point, Jaden. Not the be all end all, but a resource to consider. I'm having so much fun hearing about these classes that you all are taking, and it just made me think of a couple things. So, like, I loved hearing Jaden's point about pulling out his degree progress report. And something that I'm wondering about is, all of you mentioned a class that you took that you really enjoyed that was pretty far afield from your major or your focus, right? And I think that's something that's really cool about college, is how many different directions you can go. But I'm wondering for each of you, how do you, what factors in? I heard Jaden talk a little bit about this, knowing that he wanted to take something a little lighter because he had a couple of really hard synchronous classes. But what factors in for you when you choose your courses? Maybe talk a little bit about how, what your process was for selecting your classes for the fall, if you don't mind. I would love to hear about that.
Talking with my advisor, they advise that I take a good balance of my major related classes and also just gen eds, so that I can equally get through them throughout the year. And it's also great just because you get to meet a lot of different people than you would if I were to take all business classes. Business students can be kind of intolerable to a point. But I also take, but when you take art and philosophy and literature, things like that, you meet a lot more fun people. And it's a lot more easy than trying to take all your hard classes in the beginning and then do a really easy senior year. It's good to have a better balance of them.
I will say also, my college, or my major specifically, there are different tracks within it. And for each of these, so eventually you do have to choose a track. But for each of the tracks, they give this sort of curriculum map. So I don't have mine pulled up right now. It might take a little time, but basically it sounds exactly like what it is. It'll tell you sort of like a recommended set of courses for each semester. We have a semester system here, so they'll have like 8 different semesters, and they'll say, okay, you should take this. This is the math class that you should take during this semester if you want to be like on track to graduate. And then they'll tell you sort of like, they'll also include at the bottom, like, oh, maybe if you have some extra space, you can fit in a gen ed or 2, or you can take care of like an extra technical class that you want to, if you want to move that forward from like a semester that came before or came after. So yeah, they do have they give us curriculum maps to kind of give us an idea of where we can start, but there's also plenty of flexibility of because there's plenty of students who, especially within my major, who will take up minors that kind of line up with the specific track within bioengineering. So like for me, for example, I'm also minoring in material science because it has a lot to do with the track that I've chosen. So yeah, they have like suggestions about where you can kind of fit those classes in that you need to take for your minor. So yeah, I don't know if that's those curriculum maps are like a common thing at other colleges, but your college will definitely provide you some sort of resource, whether it is like the degree report that Jaden mentioned or the curriculum maps, or they will help you out with planning all those out. So you don't have to worry about like being completely off the deep end there.
Yeah, Emory also has something similar to curriculum or like class maps where depending on your major, it'll tell you the recommended year that you should take certain classes. So for me, they recommended I would take the intro classes from a major, which is neuroscience. And since I am on the pre-med track, which means I want to go to med school, we also have to take some classes for that. And that's like chem and bio. And I think that's pretty standard at most universities. I don't know if most universities take both of them their first year, but that's something that Emory like kind of pushes you to do. And that kind of ate up most of my schedule. So yeah, but I did have like room for a fun one both semesters so far. So
Yeah, and one of the things that I really remember too is like sometimes you get these unexpected connections, you know, maybe like there's something that you learn in a Greek mythology class, and then, you know, there's like some echo of it later on. Yeah, I just, you know, there's when if you do have the ability to take some like more fun classes, sometimes you really are like if you change your major, you might have to just like double down. Or if you're taking like, you know, multiple majors or a major and a minor, sometimes like you end up very like prescribed. But certainly in your first year, like I love that you all are like able to make sure that you take some classes that are fun. Okay, tell us about something non-academic. So what else are you doing? How do you keep yourself sane outside of classes? Are you involved with any clubs or sports or anything like that? Or is it like, it could be some other kind of socializing that's not like super formal?
Yeah, outside of class, I'm involved in Demonthon, which is DePaul's dance marathon chapter. I did it in high school, so I joined up when I heard about it. A lot of colleges at the beginning of the year will have a club fair where you can go through, see all these tables set up with different organizations, clubs, sports, intramural sports, club sports, and you can just go through, talk to upperclassmen, and kind of just see what you might want to join. And the great thing about a lot of them is there's not too much commitment involved. You can just drop in and see if you like it or not. You meet a lot of great people through it, and yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for me, so here at U of I, we also have a similar kind of like exhibition of like different clubs. Ours is at the beginning of the year. It's called Quad Day. I don't know if they call it that at other places too, but yeah, so here there is our main quad is like actually very large, and so that's why they host it there. There's like booths that literally line the entirety of the quad, and the quad is like, I don't even know how big it is, but it's pretty big. So they'll line the entire area with tables, and everyone's able to, you know, hand out flyers or like advertise what they're doing. And that's actually where I found the organizations that I'm a part of now. So one of the groups I'm part of is Illini Fighting Hunger. It's a food insecurity organization targeted to both in the local Champaign-Urbana community and on a more global scale. I also found this Korean percussion ensemble that it's funny because I touched one of the drums. I like played it for like a couple months in like 6th grade, and that was it. But I was very surprised to see that, this is like actually a community here on campus. It's again another testament to just how like diverse it is. Like there's so many different cultures and communities that you can be a part of. So now I'm part of their ensemble. So I'm part of that too. And also this one's pretty fun. I don't know if any of you've heard what a Rube Goldberg machine is. Um, but yeah, for those who don't know, it's basically a very fun but overcomplicated way to accomplish a single task. So yeah, one of the competition, we compete in a competition annually, and so the one this year was you have to put a pair of sunglasses onto a face. So yeah, we created this. It was a pretty big machine. But yeah, we created this giant device that very overcomplicatedly but very entertainingly puts sunglasses on a little face that was drawn onto a kind of a little watering can. So yeah, I think um, your clubs and extracurriculars can be oriented towards sort of your major or like what your academic focus is, but they can also be completely random. I am not studying to be like a food scientist or a professional machine builder or anything like that. But I'm still a part of those organizations and I still have a lot of fun with them. So
So let's see, at my school, there is this thing that my residence hall does, and every residence hall does. It's called Tea Time Tuesday. And in the evenings, every Tuesday, we would have some kind of program. It's not always tea. It's been tea like once or twice the entire semester, but usually it'll be like some kind of celebration. Like during Lunar New Year, we had some of themed foods and activities. We've had like Halloween themed programs. There's like a decorate a Christmas tree one, an Easter egg hunt. Like we do some pretty cute things. And then during midterm weeks or final weeks, they'll like put out some really good food like cookies and coffee, and they'll be like, okay guys, come down, grab some nourishment, you got this, good luck. So I really appreciated that about um, my school because it felt like we were getting some extra support that was like really low commitment. Like you could show up, you could not show up, you could participate in setting up and planning the programs, however involved you want to be, you can choose that. And then another thing that my school does is they'll have food trucks every weekend, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's really nice so for dining hall plans, we have to like have meal swipes, and those only last for so long. So it's really nice having some free food. That's what every college student will tell you. They love free food. So it's nice. So we have food trucks that are free, and we can just like go there and grab them. And okay, while on the topic of food, what I really liked about my school is that they carefully label all of their foods. So whether they're kosher, halal, vegan, vegetarian, like I myself am vegan, and I was like really worried about finding good food that I can eat. But I guess I didn't have to worry that much because everything is labeled. So it's really great.
That's awesome. Okay, free food trucks really does sound like living the dream to me. But Valentina, I'm so glad that you brought up food because that was actually a question that I was thinking about. So Leah and Jaden, can you talk a little bit about it? The things I'm wondering about are like, what's your structure for feeding yourself on campus? Like, what's good about it? Is there anything that like was pleasantly surprising or awfully like not a good way surprising to you? And how has the sort of like food aspect of college life kind of factored into your overall experience so far?
Yeah, so I'm on a meal swipe plan too. I get I think 14 swipes a week, just 2 meals a day. You can swipe into this big dining hall where it's kind of buffet style. You pick out your food. But you also have flex dollars, which is just a kind of currency that you can use at um, the school's convenience store and also a nicer like diner where you can get better food. Um, Honestly, I don't. The food at DePaul, it's not great, especially when I look at like the 5-star food they're serving at U of I for my friends that go there. But like, am I wrong? Like it just looks better. Maybe DePaul food is just that bad, like by comparison. But like it's okay, it's manageable. But I'd say it's definitely important to remember to eat. I know that sounds super easy, but when you're in college, you like lose that supervision you get from parents and family. So you kind of have to put on yourself to like eat and like eat healthily. And it can be difficult when you're like studying, you're stressed out. Like it could just be easier to just stay in your dorm and not walk over to the dining hall. But like you definitely have to. Like you have to like put those healthy habits in place to make sure that you're getting what you need health wise.
Yeah, for sure. Jaden, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about when you say our food is 5-star. I'm
It's
not saying that
good.
it's bad. It does look very good, I will say. And yeah, in general, it tastes fine. But what I will say I am impressed by is their commitment to I keep mentioning the whole thing about like how diverse the community is, but because there's so many different people from all over the world, they accommodate so many different holidays. Like there's some holidays I've like never even heard of. There's these like cultural food that I've never even seen. I didn't even know they existed. So like right now they have an Eid celebration for the end of Ramadan. So yeah, they're preparing for that. There's also there was like an Easter brunch during the like the holiday season. They accommodated like all the different holidays. So yeah, I will say one of the things I'm really impressed by here is that they definitely do a good job of accommodating as many different backgrounds, many different cultures as possible, as well as they reach out to the students and say, hey, we know that we are trying our best, but we know that we could always do better. So they will ask, they frequently ask students for like their feedback of, oh, what sort of cultural foods, like, is there anything else we can do to help accommodate you and your background? And so, yeah, they definitely do have a commitment to sort of diversifying and like meeting the needs of their whole population. They've definitely stepped up to the plate there.
That's awesome to hear. Valentina, I don't want to cut you out because is there anything you have to add about the food scene at Emory?
Okay, let's see. Food at Emory. I feel like compared to you guys, I feel like I'm being overfed, but we get unlimited meal swipes like every freshman. So I go into the dining hall sometimes like 5 times a day, and I'll just get like coffee or tea. I don't eat 5 times a day, because that's not healthy. But yeah, there's a lot of food. But the problem is when you get older, meal plans get really expensive and it's not unlimited. But what's really funny is that Emory upperclassmen will like befriend freshmen so that freshmen will swipe them in because they have unlimited meal swipes. But it's okay because freshmen can use their car, so it all works out. We also get something called Dooley dollars, which is it's like money, but you can only spend it at like convenience stores that are Emory owned, and we get like a certain amount. It's not unlimited. I usually just spend it on coffee. I think I accidentally became a coffee addict this past year, but yeah, I feel like the foods. I enjoy the food. Me personally, I like it, but I know other people do not like it. So I feel like it's just a personal preference and based on what you like, I guess.
Okay. I'm gonna switch gears abruptly and ask about what impact COVID has had on your school year. And like, because this is such a changing moment, I know that things that happened this year that affected you aren't going to be the same thing as like what folks next year will face, and certainly like further and further out it's going to be different every time. But I am really curious about like what was put into place and whether or not sort of the campus like felt safe to you to arrive there, or like what your school did to help support students in the face of the whole pandemic.
I think that DePaul did a great job with mitigating COVID because to start off coming in, like everyone, there was a vaccine mandate. Everyone enrolling had to be vaccinated. Also starting off, we also had the mask mandate as well. They limited visitors coming into the dorms. We didn't have any at first. And obviously over time that's been lifted. There's no longer a mask mandate. We can't have visitors in the dorm. But there's also a lot of resources that you have when it comes to COVID. We have a testing center, like most colleges, that you can go to and get results usually within 24 hours. And the protocol is if you're living on campus and you test positive for COVID, you'll be moved to the special like quarantine apartment building that you stay in for about a week until you're no longer showing symptoms. And that's usually, it's a really easy process. And you just come back. I had a friend who tested positive, and it's just like a vacation, a nicer apartment for a week. But also the different class options are also really great. We have, I think it's called like 8 modalities, where like the most common is like a flex class, where traditionally you come in person, but you also have the option to zoom into the class if you're not feeling well or if you just can't make it. There's also completely online classes, fully in-person classes, hybrid, all those options for whatever your situation might be.
For sure. Yeah, I think also U of I, I appreciated that they definitely took the COVID crisis seriously. So U of I also had a vaccine mandate with limited exceptions for on a case-by-case basis. We also have this thing called building access. So basically, there's this general database of sort of like your COVID status. So you would either have like your building access be granted if you passed all of the requirements, like you hadn't tested positive, you weren't one of those individuals who required an exception and needed to test at a higher frequency. And so they would use this app you would just show it to the person who is monitoring building access for that building. And as long as you have you've like met all the requirements, it would automatically update to having your building access granted or removed for whatever reason might be. So yeah, they definitely had strong measures in place to sort of protect students. There's also this policy where within your, at least within university housing, because that's the only area where the university has jurisdiction, but within university housing, they have a policy where if your test rate within your residence hall is higher than the positivity rate for the whole state, if that ever happens, then all students within that residence hall are required to start testing every other day until cases start to go back down again. So I think they definitely took it very seriously. One area where I think they could have improved slightly though would be during classes. I think they might would have been a little more helpful to be more accommodating of students who weren't feeling well or who tested positive, because it wasn't mandated. Nothing was mandated by the university on how professors or TAs should address this. So it was kind of just them choosing on their own, like, sure, like we'll set up a Zoom meeting for those who can't attend, or we'll allow you to make up an exam. So certain professors made it made it easier to take your time off of class to protect the health of yourself and others. So I think maybe one area that the university could have improved in is being a little bit more enforcing a little bit better, so that students feel comfortable taking time out of class to protect the community. But other than that, like I was pleased and I felt safe on campus because of those other measures that they had taken to protect all of the students.
Yeah, I feel like my experience was slightly different. I would say Emory definitely took it seriously in that there was a mask mandate, a vaccine mandate, social distancing was enforced at the beginning. Now, I mean, we still have the vaccine mandate, no more masks. Um, but those extra precautions that Jaden and Leah that you guys mentioned, I feel like Emory didn't really have those. Like there wasn't anything about needing to fill out forms or making sure you were tested or something to access buildings. And I don't know if that's just because it's a pretty small school or if it's because regionally it's located in the South. And I guess there's like this trend of Southern schools being a bit more lenient, but I feel like Emory could have done a bit better. Although what I will say is that I have seen this shift in the how mental health is viewed and also a shift in like prioritizing health. So a lot of my professors, all I have to do is email them and I would say they're all very on top of it and they truly care about our health. And if I'm just like, oh, I can't come to class today, I don't feel good, then they're understanding. They send me recordings, whatever it is that I need. But I do feel like Emory could have done better. Although our cases were pretty low, so I guess maybe there wasn't a need to. I'm not sure.
What a time to be a person in the world. Wow. So Rachel gets to ask the tough questions and then I get to ask like a fun one. So this next one is, what is something you're looking forward to for next year?
One thing I'm looking forward to, I'm moving into an apartment next year with a couple friends that I'm looking forward to because I mean I like the dorm here, but I feel like it has its limitations. I think I'd like an apartment a lot better, a lot more freedom with it. And also just I'm excited to take new classes, join new clubs next year, kind of just explore more.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely relate to the classes because I don't know about you guys, but within my major, there's a lot of like core classes that I have to take before I can actually take like bio E classes. So now I'm finally done with like Calc 3 and like physics, electricity, magnetism. I'm so excited for that class to be over. And so a lot of those like core engineering classes that everybody has to take, but now that those are over, I can finally see like why I'm a part of this major. I'm excited to finally take like classes that, are the reason why I chose this major and why I chose this school. So I'm excited to get to those. And also I'm taking my first class that's a requirement for my minor, which is material science and engineering 280. It's called engineering materials. So I don't know too much about MATC. All I know is that they do some pretty brilliant things, and I would like to learn more about that. So yeah, I think this class is going to be a good introduction to that. Yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Okay, it sounds so nerdy, but I'm really excited for chemistry class for next year. I'm like taking for Emory, we have to take 4 semesters of chemistry for pre-med, and I just finished taking gen ed, and next semester is orgo, which I feel like has a bad rep, but I'm so excited for it. We started learning orgo this semester, and it was so fun, and I'm just super excited to take it. I'm also in this club called Chemery, like chemistry at Emory. It's a cute little pun. And I am super pumped because we're going to start implementing some more programs and I get to help out with that. And we're going to like start doing these little demonstrations, like science demonstrations for children in local elementary and middle schools. So it's going to be a great time.
Valentina, I hope I can have the same enthusiasm as you for orgo because I have to take that next semester too. So
It's okay. We can help each other.
yeah, I hope I'm probably gonna need it because it's been a hot minute since I took some chemistry. So
I'm so excited for that, like doing science experiments with little kids. Well, that's actually like something that volunteers are going to do this summer. So yeah, I think it is super fun. It is just as much fun as you think it's going to be. Okay, so what have we not talked about? Is there anything that you think would be helpful for current high school students to know? Or yeah, like what else do you want to make sure to put out there? And then folks who are like participants in this, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat.
I'd say don't skip class, because the more you do it, the easier it gets. And once you get into that pattern, a lot of work piles up, because it's not like your typical high school work is due every other day kind of thing. It's more like you have a big project at the end, and if you leave it off till the end, it's not going to get done, or it probably will. I mean, I wrote my final English paper the night before, but I wouldn't recommend it for your health. But yeah.
Yeah, for me, the biggest piece of advice that I can offer is something I wish I kind of told myself. Don't worry quite so much. I feel like I definitely, I saw college as this like giant milestone that's like, where it's kind of like, you know, those like movies where like there's an asteroid heading towards Earth, and like you got like everyone on Earth has to like come together to like divert the asteroid. It's not an asteroid. It's it's really not that. It's not going to be that bad, because it's, I'm not going to lie, it is an adjustment, but you have adjusted many times before. You know, you had to adjust probably getting into high school from elementary school. You had to adjust like getting into your first day of school in the first place. So it's going to be a change, and it's going to be a big change, but you have tackled changes like this before. So you just got to keep doing what you're doing, and you're going to be fine.
I want to talk about the social scene a little bit. I think the social scene is super, super important, and it was a big reason why I chose Emory. And if you guys have not committed to a university yet, I would highly recommend you reach out to some upperclassmen or check out Reddit. Reddit is very helpful, and ask what the social scene is like. There's some party schools, there's some non-party schools. I'll speak as to my experience. So Emory is not a party school, and there are a lot of nerds here, but there are also a lot of people that like will go out, and you can find people to go out with and like have fun with. But if you want to stay in on a Friday and study, like they won't shame you, and they'll study with you. Or if you want to like watch a movie, they'll watch a movie with you. I've made some really good friends here, and I think it's because of the social atmosphere that I chose. And I would not discount that in making your own choices. I think a social scene is just as important as the academic scene. Sorry, my roommate is like looking at me. Because I mentioned she's like one of my closest friends. And yeah, she
Hi, roommate.
she's a little shy.
No worries. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have. And any questions from the audience?
Okay, I think we can then say thank you so much to our amazing guests today, and good luck on midterms or finals, depending on which you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of
Keep
system
that in
you're
mind too. What kind of schedule you pick, quarter system or semester. Quarter is pretty rare, but you know, some of us are unlucky. So.
Mhm. Good luck. Good luck wherever you are in your semester, your quarter, your trimester. Thank you so much for telling us about your experiences. And yeah, good luck wrapping up your school year, and I hope you have a wonderful, successful summer. Please come back and visit us at the library when you're back in town.
Definitely. Thank you for inviting us. It was fun.
Sure, it was good talking with you guys again.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope everyone benefited. It was great talking to you all.
Wonderful.